A player in the game is a triple threat, a graphic design by education, an illustrator by choice, and an animator by design. Mr. Ibrahim Ganiyu. His love for drawing and his fascination with comic earlier on in life led him down the path of animation. Having started his company, Imperial Creation Studios, in 1990, when he was still in secondary school, his vision to create the largest pool of creative persons and channel their creative prowess towards individual and societal economic growth is still on course. His published comic works include Dark Hedge, Hatman, Baltara, Bad Guys Detective Stories, Moremi, and Kaboom Comic Magazine. He's done numerous graphic designs and animation projects. Notable amongst them are Movie Magic Anniversary Video, Pick Mom of the Year Awards, Yellow TV Show, Glow, Luvano Atlas, and Multilinks.
My journey as an artist, starting from when I was young, really. As an artist, I think if I remember clearly, my journey in the art started very early with my dad. One of the first things I remember my dad drawing is a parrot using a pen, color pen, yellow, and there's green, red, and black, and all that. I was so fascinated with that, and I repeated that parrot over and over and over again, and that's it just caught me. The idea that you could replicate whatever it is you have seen somewhere else on a piece of paper, it was so fantastic to me, and I kept at it for years. And largely self-taught. I didn't stop. I copied anything I could copy. My first comic book was get a comic book, get the exercise book that was meant for my classwork, and then transfer the comic from page to page to the exercise book, like all over. Then copying grew until I got tired of copying and felt, I can't be creating other people's ideas. It has to be my own, and started drawing my own stuff. And it's been interesting, really. It's been very interesting. Eventually, I ended up studying graphic design in Yaba College of Technology, but it was like I was there before I got there. I was already into the arts completely before I got into Yaba Tech. I looked at comics and illustration specifically as the form of the idea of a piece of paper being transformed into something entirely creative, something entirely different from what you started with. And the idea that you can have an image in your mind and nobody else sees it but you, but there's only one way they can actually get to see it. Put your idea on paper. How long does the animation process take? Well, it depends on the production you're having. I mean, if it's a 1-minute advert, for instance, it takes a shorter time than if you're producing a TV series, and even that is shorter compared to if you're producing a full 2-hour feature film. And depending on the technique you're using, the style of animation you want, and the kind of story you're telling, it can take anything from a month to 5 years. So here's what we do normally for any process, whether you're animating or you're just drawing a comic. The most important thing is the idea. It always starts with the idea for a story, the concept for a story. It always starts with that. So you have the idea, the message you want to pass across. Once that is done, then break it down into a full story, how the story should be told, from stage 1, 2, 3 to the end. Then from there, we'll take it into what we call the dialogue process. You have to write a dialogue script, very much like writing for a movie, it is for animation anyway. Even if you're drawing a comic, you still have to write the dialogue, because the idea behind all forms of communication, particularly the comics and animation, is the story. So you should be able to pass that across well. So we get the story done well, the script is done. Then if you're doing animation, we now do a storyboard, very much like you're doing a movie, a storyboard to break down the scenes for the production, how it's going to be, what happens in which scene, which characters are where. Then begins the actual animation process itself, where the characters are drawn frame by frame if required, depending on the technique being used, frame by frame, or you draw it as required by the software you're working with nowadays anyway. I mean, in the olden days you had to draw everything frame by frame. Some people still do. I like the traditional mean anyway. We still do some traditional work, but we use the computer most of the time. So from there, your drawings, pencils, inks, colors, then the editing and mixing it with the sound, then adding the effects and the sound effects. From there, editing it and compositing everything till it's one full animated video. Wow. that can go out. You can now begin to break it down into all formats as you would like. If you were doing comics, at the storyboard points, the storyboard is called plots in comic books. So the plots stop there, then you move from plots to pencils, where the frames are actually drawn on the page and planned out, then inks, then digital coloring, and it stops there. So if it was going to animation, from the digital coloring, now take it to the computer and do more of the video works and making them move. We work largely with cutout style as against traditional, as in the with traditional frame by frame animation. The cutout style is the most used anyway, even in softwares. It's the one that's there. The idea is to make sure that you don't have to draw every frame of movement, so you can use the computer to complete certain motion. So cutout animation style works for us, so it shortens the animation period a little bit, and then the traditional animation is often required for certain scenes, so we keep to that, and that's more or less doesn't really extend the time. We haven't had a 1-year project, for instance, even though we have done some nearly 2-hour production and all that, but we haven't had one that took us up to a year, because we developed the technique that suits the project and suits the timing. That's the beauty of animation. There is no specific timing for animation production. You can plan it to be shorter than what it takes, or take 5 years to get it done. It depends on you, what you want. Okay, well, we're largely from IC Studios. What we do in the last couple of years, we have been into comic books, and a lot of our comics have been out already. Dark Age, and most recently June 12th, that was released. So very soon, a lot of our comics are coming out June 12th, and Dark Age is going to be released, and some new comic titles that we are working on. We also have an animated TV series that's coming up concerning our folk tales in Nigeria. There's a lot of a lack of programming in the children category in Nigeria, and a lot of our folk tales are largely forgotten by our children. So we're trying to do a new series that's taking the folk tales into let's say into a format that they can relate with. My earliest drawings for as long as I can remember, I've been drawing more of human elements. So my earliest drawings usually are of things that I've experienced. One of the drawings I really liked the most was, people might find this odd, when I first discovered how to draw people kissing. Then I just spent all of my secondary school time, my GS1, drawing my 2 superheroes constantly kissing over and over and over again. So that stuck with me. I still remember her face, because I drew her after an English teacher that I happened to like back in school. And so I have a drawing of her, Violet Star, one of my characters then. So she's the one I drew a lot of back then, one of my earliest ones. You'll see a lot more of her in my old drawings than now. If I have to pick drawings that I really love, most of it will be female characters I've drawn over the years. I have a fascination for drawing the female anatomy and all that. So the ones I really love nowadays are more into, I have a new series of drawings, angels, that I draw. So those are my favorites right now. They are where my art is, and that's where I put a lot of my efforts. I love them. When I draw them, it makes me happy. It makes me fulfilled. I just love drawing angels. So my favorites would be the angels that I draw now. The advice I would have for youths who want to get into character animation, drawing, comic books, and illustration is educate yourself. It is very important to know this. Creativity does not exist in a vacuum. You cannot create if you don't know. Knowledge breeds creativity, so you need to know. Expose yourself to as much information as you can. Read books, not just because you like them, but because you can get information from them. You understand? Always seek to know. There's one thing else, 2 things else. Let me just say this one. Don't seek somebody to teach you. Seek to learn. There are too many people sitting down waiting to be taught. But the guy who wants to really learn will go out and look for the information. So they need to do that. And then whatever happens, make sure you're the best at what you do. Practice, practice, practice. Never stop doing it. Never let it get tired out. Just continuously draw. It's all there is to it. Once you're the best at who you are, everything follows you.